Midnight on the Mississippi. The river moves dark and heavy beneath a clouded moon. Somewhere in the depths, 30 feet down where the current carves channels through sand and clay, a predator waits. 60 pounds of muscle coiled in the shadow of a sunken timber. Whiskers trailing in the current, sensing every vibration. A flathead catfish. And when the strike comes, there will be no mistaking it. The catfish. For thousands of years, these whiskered fish have inhabited the rivers, lakes, and reservoirs of North America. From the muddy waters of the Mississippi River Basin to the clear streams of Appalachia, from prairie farm ponds to the depths of massive reservoirs, catfish have shaped fishing traditions across the American South and Midwest in ways few other species can claim. They are not a single species, but a family, Ictaluridae, comprising 51 species across North America. Yet when Americans speak of catfishing, they speak primarily of three: the channel catfish, the blue catfish, and the flathead catfish. These are the fish that filled dinner plates during the Great Depression. The fish that built commercial fishing industries along the great rivers. The fish that inspired the tradition of noodling, barehanded fishing practiced for centuries by those brave or crazy enough to wade into murky water and let a fish bite their hand. Hello my friends, welcome to American Fishing Atlas. Subscribe to the channel, share and like. Thank you. This is a story older than the nation itself. Native American tribes along the southeastern rivers documented catching catfish by hand in 1775, though the practice surely reaches back millennia. European settlers found these bottom-dwelling fish abundant and willing to take almost any bait. By the late 1800s, commercial fishermen were hauling millions of pounds annually from the Mississippi and its tributaries. In river towns from Minnesota to Louisiana, the local economy turned on catfish. But the catfish story isn't just history. Today, these species support a multi-billion-dollar industry spanning commercial aquaculture, recreational fishing, and a culture that runs deep through small towns where fish fries remain social anchors. Understanding American catfish means understanding three distinct species that share waters but lead separate lives. It means recognizing a fish that shaped how millions of Americans connect with their rivers and lakes. From the biology that makes them uniquely adapted predators to the traditions built around pursuing them, this is the complete story of American catfish. Ictalurus punctatus. The channel catfish. Olive brown back fading to silvery white belly, with dark spots scattered across sides and back, though these spots often fade in larger fish. The deeply forked tail distinguishes it immediately from bullheads and flatheads. The anal fin curves outward with 24 to 29 rays. Most channel cats weigh between 1 and 15 pounds, though fish pushing 45 pounds swim in the nation's waters. The world record stands at 58 pounds. This is the catfish of farm ponds and city reservoirs. The species stocked in tens of thousands of small impoundments across North America. Its native range stretched from the Gulf of Mexico through the Mississippi River Basin, north into the Great Lakes and southern Canada, east to the Appalachian slopes. Today, through stocking programs, channel catfish inhabit waters from coast to coast. They thrive in diverse conditions: clear lakes, muddy rivers, swift streams, still ponds. Water temperature between 60 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit proves ideal, though they tolerate both colder and warmer extremes. During daylight, adult channels seek deep water or cover beneath logs and drift piles. When darkness falls, they move shallow to feed. And feed they do. Channel catfish are true omnivores. Insects, crayfish, small fish, mollusks, even plant material. Research found insects from 50 different families in the stomachs of channel cats from a single river. Younger fish feed primarily on aquatic insects. As they grow beyond 4 inches, the diet expands to include everything the river offers. This adaptability explains their success across the continent. But adaptability comes with competition. Channel catfish share waters with two larger cousins. Ictalurus furcatus, the blue catfish, the largest catfish species in North America. While channel cats wear spots, blue cats wear slate blue to gray across the back, fading to white below. No spots. The anal fin forms a straight edge, not curved like the channel cat, with 30 to 36 rays. The deeply forked tail resembles the channel cat's, leading to frequent misidentification. The current world record blue catfish weighed 143 pounds. Fish over 100 pounds swim in rivers from Missouri to Virginia. Blues exceeding 60 inches in length have been documented. These are river fish primarily, though they adapt to large reservoirs. Unlike channels, blues strongly prefer the main channels of major rivers: the Mississippi, Missouri, Ohio, Tennessee. They thrive in current. Their native range centered on the Mississippi, Missouri, and Ohio river systems, spreading through major tributaries. In recent decades, blue catfish have been introduced, often controversially, into Atlantic coast drainages. In the Chesapeake Bay watershed, they've established populations so successfully that concerns about native species have prompted aggressive management. Blues are predators first. While channel cats dabble in plant material and invertebrates, blue catfish hunt fish. Shad, herring, skipjack, anything that swims becomes prey. This piscivorous diet fuels their massive growth. They spawn later than channels, preferring water temperatures between 70 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. In rivers with all three species present, blues dominate the deepest, fastest water. The main channel. The swift holes. Places where current concentrates baitfish and brings oxygen-rich water. Pylodictis olivaris. The flathead catfish. Also called the yellow cat, mud cat, shovelhead cat. The name describes what distinguishes this species instantly: that broad, flattened head. The squared tail separates it from channels, and blues with their forked tails. Mottled yellow-brown coloring varies dramatically by water. Some appear nearly black in muddy rivers, others pale yellow in clear lakes. The world record flathead weighed 123 pounds, taken from Elk City Reservoir in Kansas in 1998. Fish exceeding 60 inches in length prowl rivers from the Dakotas to the Gulf. Unlike channels and blues, flatheads are true ambush predators. They pick a spot, beneath a logjam, inside a cave undercut into the bank, under a bridge abutment, and they stay. Alone. Flatheads are solitary fish. At night, they leave their lairs to hunt. And they hunt live prey exclusively. Insects and crayfish for young flatheads. But past 10 inches, the diet shifts almost entirely to fish. By 6 years old, a flathead eats fish and nothing else. They ambush from cover, inhaling prey with vacuum-like strikes. That preference for live bait makes flatheads the target of a unique style of fishing: live bait on heavy tackle, fish tied to heavy cover. Their native range mirrored the channel catfish, Mississippi and Missouri River basins, extending into the lower Great Lakes. Unlike blues, flatheads have been introduced westward with mixed results. In some waters, they've devastated native fish populations. In Georgia, Arizona, and other states outside their native range, flatheads are considered invasive species requiring aggressive management. In the hand, identifying these three becomes routine. The tail tells much of the story. Deeply forked means channel or blue. Squared or slightly notched means flathead. For the fork-tail species, examine the anal fin. Curved outward with fewer rays signals channel catfish. Straight-edged with more rays means blue. The flathead's broad head and mottled coloring leave no doubt. But in the water, on the end of a line, these differences manifest in how each species fights. Channel cats make short, powerful runs. Blues pull with relentless, heavy pressure. Flatheads dig down and refuse to move, then explode in violent surges that test tackle and patience. 3 species. 3 strategies. 1 family that dominates American freshwater fishing. The story begins in the Southeast. In 1775, Irish trader and historian James Adair documented Native American tribes catching catfish barehanded in rivers around South Carolina. The Choctaw and Chickasaw peoples practiced similar techniques in what would become Mississippi, Louisiana, and Arkansas. They understood what settlers would later discover: during spawning season, male catfish guard nests aggressively. Reach into the right hole, and a catfish will bite. Hold on, and dinner emerges from the depths. This practice, now called noodling, has other names: grabbling, hogging, tickling, cat-daddling. By any name, it's the same principle: wading or diving into murky water, probing underwater cavities with bare hands, letting an angry catfish clamp down, then wrestling it to the surface. No rods, no reels, no hooks, just hands and courage. Scottish immigrants in Appalachia recognize similarities to their own tradition of trout tickling. But American catfish, especially flatheads, dwarf European trout. A typical noodled flathead weighs 40 pounds. Fish over 60 pounds bite hands regularly. In 1854, a New York writer named W.B. Parker described Texas anglers hauling a catfish from the Brazos River measuring 4 feet 7 inches long, likely 80 to 90 pounds. Noodling peaked during the Great Depression. With no money for fishing tackle, rural families turned to hand fishing for protein. Necessity became tradition. Fathers taught sons. Communities gathered at known holes during spawning season. In some places, noodling became so popular that states worried about catfish populations and made the practice illegal. By the early 20th century, most states had banned noodling. But traditions die hard. Throughout the mid-1900s, noodlers fished in the shadows. Nighttime expeditions. Quietly surfacing in backwaters, careful to avoid game wardens. Some were arrested. Many continued regardless. The outlaw status only deepened the practice's cultural significance. Beginning in 2001, states began reconsidering. Oklahoma legalized noodling with regulations, followed by Texas in 2011. Today 16 states permit hand fishing for catfish, each with specific rules regarding seasons, species, and methods. The Okie Noodling Tournament in Pauls Valley, Oklahoma, draws thousands of visitors each June, nearly twice the town's population. It's Oklahoma's largest tourism event, featuring live music, kids' noodling clinics, and catfish cook-offs. Prizes go to the biggest fish, but the real prize is preserving tradition. While some caught catfish barehanded, others built industries around them. By the 1880s, commercial fishermen worked the Mississippi with gill nets, hoop nets, tremel nets, and troutlines. Catfish, buffalo, gar, non-game fish that would tolerate handling and captivity. Before refrigeration, catfish could survive in live nets for days. This quality made them ideal for commerce. The catches were staggering. In Iowa alone, the annual harvest from the Mississippi River averaged 3 million pounds throughout the 1940s. By 1983, over 2,250 Iowans held commercial fishing licenses. Most worked the Great River. Catfish populations sustained entire towns. Fish markets became social hubs. Restaurants specializing in catfish drew travelers from hundreds of miles. The fish came out of the river wild, strong flavored from bottom feeding in muddy water. They required careful cleaning. But properly prepared, breaded in cornmeal, fried in cast iron, river catfish became a staple across the South and Midwest. Every community had its fish fry tradition. churches, fraternal lodges, family reunions. Catfish brought people together. Then came the farms. In Mississippi's Delta region, farmers began raising catfish in ponds around 1965. What started as crop diversification on marginal cotton land became an industry. Channel catfish proved ideal for pond culture, hardy, tolerant of crowding, easily spawned under controlled conditions. Farm-raised catfish tasted milder than river fish, a quality preferred by restaurants and processors. By the 1980s, automated filleting revolutionized processing. Mississippi led the nation in catfish production, with over 100,000 acres dedicated to ponds by 2001. Belzoni proclaimed itself the catfish capital of the world, hosting annual festivals. The economic impact reached billions of dollars. Farm-raised catfish displaced wild-caught river fish in markets nationwide. Commercial river fishing declined. Some processors pivoted entirely to farm fish. Others found niche markets shipping wild catfish to New York and other cities. The Mississippi still holds abundant catfish, but low prices and competition from aquaculture offer little incentive to independent fishermen. A few operations persist, teaching the next generation the methods their great-grandfathers used. The tradition hasn't died, it's evolved. The relationship between Americans and catfish has shifted from commercial necessity to recreational pursuit, from river harvest to pond production. But the fish remains central to regional identity. Drive through the rural South or Midwest on a Friday evening and follow the smell. Somewhere nearby, catfish hits hot oil. A church fundraiser. A VFW post. A family reunion. The American fish fry centers on catfish, and it's where tradition persists most visibly. The ritual remains largely unchanged. Whole catfish or fillets, dredged in seasoned cornmeal, sometimes mixed with flour, sometimes pure meal, into a cast iron pot or electric fryer filled with peanut oil. Temperature around 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Fry until golden brown. Serve with hush puppies, coleslaw, baked beans, sweet tea to drink, lemon wedges and hot sauce on the table. This is community food. The ingredients are humble. The preparation is straightforward. But the gathering matters more than the meal. Fish fries build connections between generations, between neighbors, between past and present. The same recipes pass through families. The same stories get told. And catfish, pulled from local waters or bought from the nearest processor, remains the reason everyone gathers. Sunset on the Tennessee River. A fisherman settles into his lawn chair at water's edge, 3 rods propped in holders, bells attached to rod tips. Chicken livers on 2 lines. Cut shad on the 3rd. This is catfishing at its most accessible. Bank fishing with simple gear, watching rod tips for the telltale bounce that signals a take. Channel catfish feed most actively after dark. The best bank fishermen arrive in late afternoon, claiming spots where rivers narrow or current pushes against banks. Deep holes. Mouths of tributaries. Anywhere catfish travel from daytime hiding places to nighttime feeding zones. Cast bait into these travel routes and wait. Patience defines bank fishing. Hours might pass between bites. But when the bell rings and line peels from the reel, the wait justifies itself. Bait choice reveals regional differences. Across the South, chicken liver remains traditional, cheap, effective, blood scent dispersing through water. The Midwest favors cut bait, pieces of skipjack, shad, carp. Prepared baits, dip baits, punch baits, soap baits, work in ponds and slow rivers where channel cats dominate. Some fishermen swear by night crawlers. Others use hot dogs, ivory soap, even bubblegum. Catfish investigate any strong scent. The serious river catfishers work from boats, drifting the main channel, anchoring above deep holes. This is blue catfish territory. The heaviest tackle comes out, 60-pound test line, circle hook sized 8 to 0 or larger. Cut skipjack herring or fresh shad for bait. Chunks, not fillets. The scent must broadcast through hundreds of yards of current. Blue catfish positioning follows predictable patterns. Find the deepest holes in a river reach and blues will be there. Current breaks where tributaries enter the main stem. Bends where outside banks carve deep channels. Wing dams and bridge pilings that create scour holes. Drop baits into these spots and wait for the sustained, heavy pull that signals a blue taking line. The fight differs from channel cats. Blues don't make explosive runs. They pull. Constant, relentless pressure toward the bottom. Anglers describe it as pulling a cinder block off the bottom. When a 20-pound blue takes line in current, rod holders won't hold. 40-pound fish require both hands on the rod and determination. 60-pound fish test tackle limits. The upper Mississippi, Missouri, Tennessee, and Ohio rivers all hold populations capable of producing fish exceeding 100 pounds. The James River in Virginia. The Santee Cooper system in South Carolina. Any large river system where blues were native or introduced. These fish grow for decades, and the true giants, fish approaching the all-tackle record, swim in these deep channels, feeding on shed runs, growing slowly but steadily year after year. Flathead fishing operates under different rules. These solitary ambush predators require live bait, bream, bullheads, small carp, goldfish. Size matters. Where channel catfishing uses minnows and blues take cut bait, flathead hunters use bait fish measuring 6 to 10 inches, sometimes larger. The logic is simple: big bait, big fish. Presentation matters more than with other catfish. Flatheads won't chase bait through open water. The bait must swim near their lair. This means fishing tight to structure, logs, rock piles, undercut banks, bridge pilings. Heavy line, strong hooks, and patience. The bait swims naturally, transmitting vibrations. The flathead senses it. Eventually, hunger or territoriality triggers the strike. When a flathead takes, there's no subtlety. The rod bends hard. Line screams. The fish drives deeper into cover. This first run determines the outcome. Stop the fish before it reaches the snag, or cut line and start over. Flatheads fight with violent surges, headshakes, bulldogging runs toward the bottom. A 30-pound flathead fights harder than a 50-pound blue. A 60-pound flathead challenges tackle designed for ocean fishing. The best flathead water holds the best structure. Rivers with fallen timber. Reservoirs with standing trees. Rocky banks with caves. These fish live near bottom in the heaviest cover available. They feed at night, primarily from late spring through early fall, when water temperatures exceed 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Some anglers fish all night, moving between known structures, working live bait into each likely spot. In Oklahoma, noodling defines catfish culture. Texas catfishers favor jug fishing, free-floating jugs with baited lines. Kentucky's Ohio River anglers drift for blues with cut shad. Mississippi's farm ponds hold managed channel cats. Wisconsin's pool fishermen work the Mississippi's backwaters. California's reservoirs, stocked with channels decades ago, produce surprising numbers. Each region develops its own traditions. The Chesapeake Bay watershed, where introduced blues have exploded in population, sees trophy fishing with kayaks in tidal waters. The Red River between Oklahoma and Texas hosts annual catfish tournaments. Farm ponds across the Midwest stock channels for youth fishing programs. The bait changes with geography. Skipjack herring where they're available. Gizzard shad throughout the central U.S. cut carp in some waters. Crawfish in others. Prepared baits developed specifically for channels. The constant is catfish themselves, adaptable, widespread, willing to feed on whatever's available. Catfish conservation in the United States is a story of contrast shaped by biology, geography, and human decisions. Channel catfish remain the most stable, highly adaptable, widely stocked, and supported by both wild fisheries and aquaculture, with regulations that protect spawning fish in most waters. Blue and flathead catfish, however, carry a split identity, thriving and celebrated in their native river systems, but disruptive where they've been introduced outside their historical range. In places like the Chesapeake Bay watershed, blue catfish have become a management concern due to impacts on native species, while introduced flatheads have altered fish communities in several regions. The takeaway is simple but critical. These fish evolve within specific ecosystems, and moving them can create long-lasting consequences. Meanwhile, habitat and water quality pressures, runoff, altered river flows from dams, urban development, and climate-driven shifts in temperature and flooding can degrade spawning and nursery areas even when catfish remain catchable, masking deeper ecosystem decline. Continuity depends on balancing tradition with modern stewardship. Commercial river catfishing persists more as heritage than profit, outcompeted by consistent, lower-cost farm-raised fish and constrained by contamination concerns, while recreational catfishing continues to grow through tournaments, specialized gear, and family-friendly access that makes catfish one of America's most democratic fisheries. Management increasingly aims for long-term quality, trophy regulations where appropriate, stocking in urban ponds for youth participation, and wider adoption of catch-and-release ethics using circle hooks and better handling practices. The heart of the legacy is intergenerational, a child learning to avoid the spines on a first catch, a community fish fry that returns every year, and events like noodling tournaments that pass knowledge hand to hand. The challenges ahead are real, but so is the commitment, from anglers releasing big fish to spawn again, to biologists and communities protecting habitats and access, so the rivers can keep holding catfish, and the tradition can keep moving forward.